Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Strategic Business Influencer, my series for leaders who know that in today's evolving world, trust is the greatest competitive advantage. Today on the Strategic Business Influencer, I am joined by two very special guests, Dr. Tracy Christopherson and Michelle Troseth, co-authors of the Polarity Intelligence, The Missing Logic in Leadership, and founders of a powerful methodology helping entrepreneurs lead and live differently. After decades as clinicians, executive leaders, and culture transformation experts inside complex healthcare systems, they made the leap into entrepreneurship to bring their work to a broader audience. What makes them truly unique? They call themselves a walking polarity, which we will definitely get into during today's conversation. Their natural energies sit on opposite poles: speed and reflection, bold action and thoughtful strategy. And instead of fighting those differences, they have learned how to leverage them. So today, they help entrepreneurs navigate the tension between growth, sustainability, productivity and relationships, ambition and well-being, so leaders can scale their business without sacrificing their life. So Tracy and Michelle, I want to welcome you to the show. I'm very excited for today's conversation.
Thank you so much, Paige. We are looking so forward to this conversation.
Yeah, so excited.
Yeah.
Well, what I love about your story that the listeners might not know is that you both met in 1986 during hospital orientation. I feel like y'all did like a handshake whenever they told you to greet each other. And you've now built both this beautiful lifelong friendship, but also a business partnership. And so what allowed your relationship to evolve from just colleagues to culture transformation leaders to now co-founders?
Well, I would say, first of all, we paid attention to whatever that energy was between us when we met and continued. We didn't know what to call it, but it just kind of kept coming back together again. So I think it's important to pay attention to those little inklings, or when you're with someone and you feel a lot of energy. And I would say too that Trace and I both had a growth mindset as leaders. We were always learning. We were helping each other learn. She would come to my office and we would do things together and be creative together, or I'd go to hers. And it's just like we just started this friendship and this collaborative leadership role by those two things. I think that's really what started the bond. And then we started doing legacy planning eventually, where we actually sat down once a year and said, where do we want to be 3 years from now in our careers, in our professional life, in our personal life? And that was a big step.
Wow. Yeah, it was. I think the other thing that contributed throughout our journey was this sense of shared purpose. And we were a part of something that was much larger than us. And our commitment, our passion for the work is really what drew us together and helped us to grow and evolve at the same time. And then I think in stepping into the business, it was the same thing. We knew we had something special to share with the world, and we were committed to do that. And I think we had to we learned a lot, let me just say, about how we're different and how that can be a strength for us.
Sure.
And it took us a while to see it more clearly than I think we ever had when we were working in organizations.
Mm-hmm. And in partnerships, all the listeners that have businesses and have partners know that partnerships can be really challenging. To especially a long-term partnership like you both have had. And it's really beautiful that you've had it from a friendship perspective as well as a professional business perspective. But I imagine you have to learn a lot about yourself in order to make a partnership work. So I'm curious, are there things that you even learned about yourselves along the way throughout your long-term relationship?
Oh, yeah. We both have learned a lot about ourselves, for sure. I know, just speaking for myself, it stretched me, like, especially once we got into business together and you realize that you don't see things the same way. Or I just used to say, why is this so hard? And then I realized then it took a while, but it's like, wait a minute, this is hard because this isn't my this isn't my easy path that I usually have experienced. Like, so there's something for me too to really learn from and to grow from. And that actually has continued. We now are big believers that inner work for both of us is what makes our partnership stronger. And it helps you really appreciate the differences more as well, I would say.
I think for me, I had to really learn, what is my operating system? What do I operate from? And to get that clarity for myself, like, what is my identity in this business? And what are the beliefs and the values that I hold so dearly that drive me, drive my behaviors, drive my interactions with others? And really had to step back and really think about where that's a benefit and where it was starting to be, you know, a deficit for the business, where it was interfering with our ability to partner with each other. And I think, as Michelle said too, just recognizing we think so differently from each other and really struggling with that at times. Like, why can't you just get this? You know, why can't you just see it the way I see it? And and to have some self-compassion to say, you know, it's okay to feel that way, and there's more to this. And I think the other thing for me to learn is that we were each on the same journey, but on a separate journey individually. And always, you know, we say, right, entrepreneurship is just a personal development plan because you get confronted with everything possible. And really, it's just disguised as a way to make money, but this is all about learning and growing. And it's even more so, I think, when you have somebody else that you are working with, that you're trying to do something together. And we knew a lot about partnering, but when you are responsible for it all, it shifts that dynamic.
Yeah. I am just still reeling over entrepreneurship as a personal development plan. I feel like that needs to be in the top quotes of all time on this series for sure. I love it. Yeah. I love it. And I love that you both shared, you know, the passion together is so strong and so aligned, but the approach is very, very different and the thought process very different. And I love that you both have worked across hundreds of organizations. And I know that, you know, in your work, you've realized you weren't just dealing with problems that needed to be solved in the organizations, but really the tensions that you have to manage. Can you explain that moment when you recognize that leadership really isn't an either or, but a both and?
Yeah, I can start. And then Michelle, you want to add to it? So our work began, well, back in the 90s, 1990s. And we had the great privilege to work with organizations, a huge consortium of organizations that were all on the same path to create healthy workplaces. And we were working in organizations that were not healthy, had more of a Newtonian view. Everything was about pieces and parts and structure and stability. And what we were trying to move towards was more of a kind of a quantum view, more of a systems thinking, more continuous learning environment, more about partnering rather than transactions. And we were having great success. And the beauty was we were measuring this across multiple organizations. We were all doing it in our organization and doing it collectively. But we reached a point where we realized we had success, but that success was not being sustained. And it wasn't just in one organization, it was across all the organizations. So that's when we knew something was missing. And what we came to realize, that's when we were exposed to polarities and what polarities are, which are two values, points of view, or perspectives that appear to be opposite or different, but actually are in an interdependent relationship. And they need each other to get to a greater purpose. So we were using our problem-solving thinking. If this isn't right, then we have to do this, right? If Newtonian thinking isn't right, we have to go over here and apply this quantum thinking. But actually, we needed the benefits of both. And that's when we first started to learn, oh, wait, these are polarities. They're not problems we're going to solve. And the beauty of it was we were part of a huge consortium that could then apply this new way of thinking and and evaluate the effectiveness of it and what were the highest polarities that we were dealing with that were having the biggest impact. And then there's another part of our work that was also critical in establishing these healthy workplaces. And I'll let Michelle talk about that.
Yeah. So then we also realized that it's not just about knowing about polarities that are going to be the answer to everything. You have to know how to sit in them and how to leverage them. And we also need to come together and have meaningful conversations together. And we did different practice of this when we worked for this large global company and across this consortium. And when Tracy and I, when we left, this was the one thing we wanted to bring forward to expose it across beyond healthcare to all industries. And that's when we wrote the book. And we thought it's these three critical elements that when you bring them all together, it just makes it so easy, much easier. It's always something you're working with, but how to sit in the tension because the relationships are about a shared purpose. And you have a good relationship with yourself as a leader before you have a relationship with other people, as an example, and also to sit and be able to have dialogue, to really hear a different person's perspective and not be, not have it push you away, but have you lean in and learn more about their perspective, and that everyone has a wisdom. So that's really where Polarity Intelligence came from, is weaving those three different ingredients together. And our wish is that people apply it.
I love that. And I'm curious, just through your work, sitting in tensions or managing tensions, those are not easy things for a team to do, much less leaders to do. And so I'm curious, what do you see be most challenging with most teams learning to do this, or most leaders?
Well, a lot of people are not comfortable with conflict. So tension feels like conflict, and it's actually one of the signs that you might be dealing with a polarity. So they tend to either avoid it or they really hang on to their view or their perspective. So that can definitely impact team dynamics. And what we have found is once they understand it and you give them some relevancy of how it's showing up in their work and their environment, then they know what to do with it. They know where they need to maybe put more of their attention on one pole versus the other pole at any given time.
Yeah. And some key tensions that are experienced, doesn't matter what organization you're in, a big one, especially right now, is stability and change. We are facing so much change. Yeah. And it needs to be balanced out with stability. There's a need for change and there's positive outcomes around that. And there will be people in an organization. We often do these little room splits. How many of you have a preference for stability? How many have a preference for change? It just gives you great insights into the organization around who prefers what. And that drives their fears. It drives what they value. It drives what they hang on to. So stability and change is one. Another is individual and team. And entrepreneurs face this. As an entrepreneur, you are the individual at first, right? You're feet on the street, you're doing all the things, and then you start to bring on a team. And how do I balance what I need to do and what I give to the team to do? That's another one that's significant. And I think decision making is also when you have directive decision making, but you also need to complement that with collaborative decision making. And so those are just some key tensions that people have to sit in. And what makes it a tension is you have a preference.
Sure.
Most of us prefer one pole more than the other. Sometimes that's based on the experiences we've had. And sometimes it's based on fear of what happens if this other perspective is given more attention, and then I'll lose what I value, right? It won't be valued anymore. So there's those things that drive the tension up. And that's why the relationships and dialogue are so important. To sit in the tension, you got to be able to be in relationship and have conversation.
Absolutely. I love that. And I want to talk a little bit about the two of you and just your personal experience. So you both walked away from significant roles in much larger companies. What gave you the courage to transition to entrepreneurship? Because that is a significant leap.
Yeah. It is. I would say it was something we kind of started realizing we were going to do when we were doing that legacy planning all those years. It wasn't at first, but it really emerged. But I think a key factor for us is that we had a mentor that was an entrepreneur. She left the traditional role to start this work. And I think it was very inspirational and helpful to see someone else do it right, before us, and have her as a role model was really a big step. At least it was for me to see, so she could do it. We can do it.
Well, I think if I'm honest, I'd say I was naive. I had no clue what I was getting into.
So many guests have said that on this series just to make us all feel good here.
I'm telling you, I really didn't. I thought, oh, okay, we're going to put this thing together and we're going to put it out there. We're going to be successful. This is going to be easy. Holy moly. I had no idea. But I did know that we had something that others didn't have, that there was something unique that we had learned, and that it was a game changer for people. And if we could get this out there and help it really become more of a norm, it would make such a significant difference in the world, across the world, because polarities are everywhere. And we are everything is relationships. And it was so needed, and it was such a game changer. So it was that commitment to the purpose. And that was the reason we left corporate in the first place, is our purpose was no longer aligned with the organization we're in. So an opportunity to live your purpose, I think it was those couple of things, but probably mostly the naive thing.
Well, I love the honesty. And yes, there's beauty in the purpose part. And I think that's where you just jump head in, and whatever happens, right?
Yeah.
And now one thing that we touched on earlier, but I want to go a lot deeper, is describing yourselves as a walking polarity. I love that y'all are so forthcoming with this and so open discussing this. It's something that I admire and aspire to be. I'm curious, throughout the partnership, how is your learning to leverage your differences strengthen both your partnership, but also the business overall?
Well, I think it's really knowing that at a personal level, that we have these tensions that are different. And Tracy's really carries more of masculine energy. I carry more of the feminine. I really am about the relationship. She's really about the productivity of the business. And at first, like we said, it wasn't obvious why things were so hard. But I think once we realize that, and once we realize, oh my God, we are a polarity, it's probably why God put us together. We understand this at a very deep cellular level. But then we started looking at it from a business perspective. And so, our business has always been based on the core values of polarities. There's some polarities that we base our business on. But then we started looking at how we're operating in the business and how our roles really line up nicely for our strengths and what our preferences are. We started naturally aligning where it would make more sense for me to take the lead in some areas and Tracy to take the lead in other areas. So that's really helped as well. And now we even are baking in what we're calling collaboration time, where we can just have dialogue and tap into how each of our brains work and what's important to us. And so it's been an iterative process. It wasn't like we had this all figured out on day one. And I think we'll continue to work on it as well. So that's just some of the ways that we've really applied it to ourselves as partners and also the business. And I'm sure Tracy has other stories.
Yeah, I got lots of stories, but we don't have enough time for that. But I think first and foremost, we were committed to protecting our friendship. We were not going to let a business come between who we are as friends. So that's always at the foundation. But at the end of the day, we are running a business. And right. That has to be a priority. And that's a different kind of relationship, to your point. I think going through these hard times, just like in any relation, I feel like we're married, like Michelle and I,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a marriage, and you have to treat it that way. You have to be fully committed to it. And I think we've had deeper conversations in the last 2 years as business partners about who we really are, what we believe, what we think, what informs us than we ever did in the 38 years before.
Yeah.
I think it's taken us as two people, and really we've had to do a lot of inner work individually. And those are, sharing those journeys with each other, sharing the hard times, watching each other go through really challenging personal transformations. It strengthens you and it connects you in a way, binds you together. And so we're just like that polarity in that we're opposite, but we're bound together with an energy force. And we're trying to leverage that energy force to be a force in the world and a force in our business. And we keep that in mind when we're working with our team and how we're bringing our energies to our team and how we're helping them to be a part of this force and to be honest with us when we're being forceful, but not, not in a good way.
That's beautiful, and I love this idea of the force. And thank y'all so much just for being so open and transparent, because I do think it helps a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of leaders who might be experiencing this, normalize it a bit, right? And leverage it to a strength in a way. Absolutely. One thing that I've seen y'all describe entrepreneurs as is more of that all-star player, but really needing to move more into that owner's box. Why is that transition so hard for entrepreneurs, especially founder-led businesses?
Well, you want to start, Michelle? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll start. I know, just for me personally, I was an all-star in the corporate world. I mean, I was really good at what I did. I kind of came in and I knew exactly what my intention was. And you get so good at something that even when you leave and you think, okay, I'm going to do something different, you really just keep playing the game, even though you're the owner of a business. And it took me a while to figure out that's not going to help the business, and it's not helping me to be an all-star player in my business. And since then, we've seen a lot of entrepreneurs do that. They get into the business and they're so busy building it and doing a little bit what I call they haven't had the old identity completely leave them yet, that they have a hard time to kind of work on the business instead of in the business all the time. So there's a big shift that needs to happen. And it's very common. I think that's why it's so difficult. It's not like a switch you can just turn on and off.
Yeah, Michelle was so ingrained in her professional identity.
Oh, I was.
It really, the first 3 years was really hard for her. She was still 1 foot over here and a foot in the business, and you have to be all in identity wise, right? That was the big challenge for her. For me, I'm an A player. I'm a performer. I'm an achiever. I'm a doer. Let's go, right? So when you are that kind of all-star player, like, we've got this, come on, you put it on your back and you're running down the field and you don't really need anybody else because you can do it. And when you're that kind of driven person, it's really hard to let go. It's hard to even know how to share with other people what you're trying to carry. And in some instances, depending on where you're at in your business, you're still figuring it out.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of hard to hand it off to somebody else when you haven't got it all figured out yourself, right? So those are some of the, challenges. So you're in this identity of, and at first that's what gets you your success, right? It's you're doing the things.
Yep.
And then you get this team and you're thinking, you first have to go to coaching them. You have to start to build a team. And we're in virtual worlds. Most entrepreneurs that are in the online business, they don't have a team in an office. They got VAs across the country, right? They're not even on the same time zone. And they're trying to, hand off things. They're not sure how to hand them off. It's just, there's a lot of things that you have to gain some comfort with, and you have to be okay with not being comfortable. And I think some of that transition also is related to time. We're trying to move things quickly, get results quickly. And it takes time to build a team. It takes time to bring new people on. And when you'll feel like you're always behind, you don't feel like you got the time to do that. So you just keep carrying the ball, right? And so, we like to kind of say, like, you go from being on the field to being the coach, developing your little team, getting them to work together, creating an environment that fosters that. So they're working with you, not for you, right? They're like, our team is so committed to us. They pray for us. I mean, they are so committed to us.
Yeah.
And that's what you want, right? Even their virtual assistants, we don't have, like we're a small, mighty team, but we're in it together. They own what they can related to their skills. And then you get that going, and then you can move from there up to the owner's box. And you have other people that are leading the team and coaching the team, and you're taking more advantage, right? And I think one other thing I would say is it's kind of scary to be the CEO if you have never been a CEO. And there are probably things you're hiding from. You like, it's just, you don't have a skill there. You're not sure what you're doing with it. So you just kind of like, I'll look at that at another time. I'll just stay here doing this stuff because I know how to do this.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? So
exactly.
Yeah. It's where you're comfortable, right?
Yeah. Exactly. So it's hard. And if you don't have a partner, then you're out there just kind of trying to do that by yourself. And
That's
you just keep doing it until it doesn't work.
Yes, absolutely. One thing I've been talking a lot about with, groups of fellow entrepreneurs that are friends is a lot of entrepreneurs will build business for greater freedom. Or that's, the whole idea of what's going to happen when you own your business. But there's a spot where you can easily get into as an entrepreneur where you just feel trapped by your business.
Oh, yeah.
And so what is that, missing logic that allows leaders to scale their impact, but without sacrificing that freedom, the health, relationships, joy? How do you have both?
Well, I think one of the things that we practice just so faithfully ourselves is really the balance of the dynamic balance of professional life and personal life, or owning a business and then also having a personal life, living the life that you want, and supporting each other in that. We check in with each other on that. And we're very intentional about that. And it also kind of goes back to the all-star player and the head coach, right? You have to look at the role you really are playing in your business.
I think to expand a little bit on what Michelle said, it is this dynamic balance. And when you understand that your business life and your personal life are a polarity that's always going to be there, there's always going to be tension. It's never going to go away. That's the one thing about polarities, never goes away. So you have to have strategies in place to get the best of both. And knowing that there will be times when your business is going to demand a lot from you, more than on a typical day. And you've got to be able to be present to that. But the ticket is to never totally let go of the things you're doing in your personal life to keep it strong. So if you can't do all the things, what are the one or two things you can do that will keep you in that positive energy, keep you getting the most outcomes that you can get during this time? And then when things come back to normal and the business, you pick back up on all the things that you were doing, whether that's date nights or, dates with your kids or exercise or whatever it is that's keeping your personal life strong. You build those others back in when things right out a little bit more, right? Same thing if something happens in your personal life, you get ill, somebody gets ill, or you have an elderly parent you're taking care of. Life is gonna life. It's gonna cause you to shift your attention. You just can never totally let go of the other pole. You always have to be doing something. So you have to think strategically. How can I do that? And I think especially for entrepreneurs, that's really important. And then the other one is the being and the doing. We are doers. We're focused on achieving outcomes and doing. You have to give equal attention to being, which is that quiet time, the reflection time, the thinking about your identity, It's where you can get quiet, receive, intuition, whatever works for you. But that's the quiet part, the rest part, where you're just being and complementing that with the doing. Otherwise, you burn out. You do too much doing.
Yeah. What great practical advice from you both, and something that entrepreneurs can look at and reflect on today, which I love. Now I'd like to end our conversation with two questions that I love to ask every entrepreneur, and I imagine just talking with the two of you, your answers might be a little bit different. But the first question is, who are you in addition to being a CEO or a founder?
Well, in addition to being a CEO, I also am a wife of 33 years, a mother of 3 sons, and a grandmother, and a soon to be a grandmother again. So, and that family connection is very, very big and important in my life.
Love that.
Yeah. Well, I would say I'm kind and generous. That's what I am.
Yeah.
I am also a wife, and a mother of 3 and a grandmother of 5. I'm also an avid Detroit sports fan. So if it's anything to do with hockey, baseball, or football, I'm all in. Nobody's a better fan than I am. And my other thing would be Formula One racing is my other passion. So,
yeah.
So
I love that. Two really good answers. And then the last question that I have for y'all is, what is the impact that you want to have at the end of every single day?
Well, I think for me, it's really knowing that whatever I did that day or how I showed up, I'm moving our shared purpose and our mission forward. And that can be in a big way, like being on a podcast like this and getting the word out there even more, or it could be even a small way, just with me and my team. And then I think just bringing joy and spreading love it's the little things sometimes. Every connection that you have, every person that you meet, or even, our team, Tracy, my family. So just making that connection is impact.
Yeah. For me, I would say one thing would be, for me personally, is that I've learned something. At the end of the day, I've expanded in some way, learned something, expanded my thinking in some way. And the other is that I've done something, made some kind of contribution that will make this world better for my grandchildren.
That's beautiful. And thank you both for sharing. And Michelle, Tracy, you have just delivered so much value
great
in this 30-minute episode. So I'm really excited to share this with our listeners who are all founders, entrepreneurs, trying to navigate growing a business, scaling a business, partnership, teams, all the things that we discussed. If anybody listening wants to learn more about you two or get connected to you two, what is the best way to do that?
Well, we also have a podcast, which you're going to be a guest on.
That's right.
In your future. We're super excited about that. It's called Burnout Proof Leadership. So you can find us there. And then we also have missinglogic.com is our website. We have a book website, polarityintelligence.com, where you can get information about ordering our book and a little bit about it and some tools to help you as well. And then we also have an Instagram account and a Facebook account called the Polarity Power Pair, and TikTok now too.
Oh,
we're on all the socials.
Yes.
All the socials. I love it. So y'all be sure to go subscribe to the podcast, because they have hundreds of conversations just like they had here.
Yeah.
And then also get the book, because the book will, I'm sure, walk you through step by step of everything. So thank you so much again for being incredible guests, and very, very excited to share this with all of our listeners.
Thank you,
Paige.
Absolutely. Well, we will catch you all next time.